Russians panic because Ukrainians crossed Dnipro river and caused a massive havoc, and reportedly the entire 1322 Russian battalion disappeared. And to make things even worse, Ukrainians finally found the weakest spot of Russians. But more about all of this in just a couple of minutes. What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. And let's get right to the point and talk about some ridiculous Russian propaganda. So yesterday I was asking you if people in the United Kingdom if you're eating squirrels because your government spends so much money to support Ukraine, and here, as promised, are the best answers. So, Super Benaton says that it is extremely complicated to catch squirrels, and to be honest it is not even worth it because their meat is not even that delicious. Then we have another response by one old man on the road 9034. Yes, I will read all your names all the way until the end. He basically says that right now even the gas and electricity prices are so expensive that the people in Britain they're forced to eat squirrels raw. But Garrett505 decided to go even further. He said that the squirrels are not on the British menu because they're reserved for the combat operations soldiers, along with combat mosquitoes. And ultimately Charles Trush 6767, he mentions that, well, he was laughing so hard that he almost choked on his steak. My question here will be, was this a steak from a squirrel? But overall, I just want to thank every single one of you for sharing your post-apocalyptic survival skills, and if you still have something to add, please go ahead and do it down below in the comments. I'll make sure to read through as many of them as I can, and then, who knows, maybe these tips will be even useful, because maybe Russian nuclear threats are not even bluff anymore, who knows. But okay, come on, we're all smart people here, and if you do not believe the Russian authorities, especially their nuclear threats, can you please like this video and subscribe to my channel? You can also follow my second channel, The Russian Dude Clips, where I post under 1-minute summaries every single day. The link is down below. So yeah, right now let's talk about a very suspicious activity in Belarus. Then I'm going to give you an extremely quick update from the east and south of Ukraine, especially from the south, where Ukrainians found the weakest spot of Russians and even crossed the Dnipro river. And so yes, speaking about Belarus, recently Mozyrsky oil refinement has been spontaneously caught on fire, which once again why it makes it so suspicious, because almost exactly 1 week ago the defense intelligence of Ukraine mentioned that potentially they do have a reconnaissance intelligence data that Russians might do a provocation exactly in that place, so that later people from Belarus and authorities can blame Ukrainians for doing this. And so what do we have right now? Exactly their prediction came true. Right, now let's go to the capital of Russia, Moscow, where last night even more drones have been intercepted allegedly by Russian air defense systems. The Russian authorities claim that they were able to successfully intercept every single one of these Ukrainian drones. That is why I have no idea why we have this video somewhere from near one of Moscow airports, Domodedovo, where there was a very big fire. Well, Russians found the explanation as well. They said that this was just a car repair service, which spontaneously ignited by itself. Okay, I guess. So yeah, now as promised, let's do a quick update from the east of Ukraine and then we go to the south. And so first of all, 53 bordering settlements in this front line in Kharkiv region, the local authorities from Ukrainian side, they urged the locals to evacuate if they want to. As of right now, this evacuation is not mandatory, but highly recommended. And the reason for this, it is because Russians increased the artillery strikes against these territories. And in confirmation of this, we have the report by the Institute for the Study of War, which claims that still Russians continue to try do offensive along Kupiansk, Svatovo, Kreminna front line with no reported gains in the last 24 to 48 hours. But at the same time, Ukrainian artillery was able to reportedly destroy an assault group of Russians, along with a couple of their trucks located in Dnipro. Going a little bit down, Ukrainians were also able to destroy a pretty big mortar firing position of Russians located to the east of Spirne. And as you go down to probably the most intense zone in the entire Ukrainian front lines, the city of Bakhmut, right here we have yet another almost 2 minutes video from the city, which is packed with combat footage and Ukrainians eliminating several Russian soldiers. For obvious reasons, this type of content is not allowed on YouTube without me being demonetized. That is why if you want to see the full version, it is on my Patreon. The link is down below. There is still 1 week of free access. To the south of Bakhmut, there is another major city called Klishivka, which, as you can see from this map, is almost semi-encircled by Ukrainians. And so recently Russians tried to breach this encirclement, and this attempt was completely unsuccessful. Ukrainians repelled all of these attacks. And just overall, in the last 24 hours, Ukrainians were able to destroy 3 control points, 5 artillery units, 13 concentration of forces, and 2 ammunition depots of Russians. And so yes, now let me give you a similar very quick update from the south, especially because Ukrainians were able to find the weakest spot of Russians and cross Dnipro river. But first of all, we have to make a stop in Rivne region, as you can see located extremely far from the front lines, where recently there has been an attack by a Russian drone against oil base. And as we get closer to the Ukrainian front lines, to the city called Zaporozhye, as you can see from this video, Russians attacked a local hotel and almost completely destroyed it. And they justified this action by saying that this was a local headquarters of a Nazistic party of Ukrainians, the meeting point for international mercenaries, and just some other very scary Ukrainian soldiers. But apparently, according to the locals and authorities, this hotel was used by kids to just have their summer camp. Luckily, all the kids were taken out of this place before the attack happened. And just overall, in the last 24 hours, Ukrainians were able to intercept 7 out of 10 Russian Shahed drones. Next, let's go to the actual front lines. And so recently Ukrainians reportedly destroyed a defensive position and assault group of Russians located near Robotyne. And as we go to another major front line in the Zaporozhye region, right here next to Staromayorsk, Ukrainians also reportedly were able to approach Urozhaine from the north and from the west, and they even entered the city. And during this raid, they were also able to destroy an assault group of Russians along with their armored military vehicles. But as for now, as you can see from this map, this information is not yet confirmed. Then we have this extremely interesting video, and if you have never seen the interface of this remote control of Ukrainian drones, which they use to destroy very expensive Russian military vehicles, so in this case this will be a perfect video for you. But most importantly, recently Ukrainians finally found probably the weakest spot of Russians, and is located in their Black Sea fleet. Because if you remember, most of the times in the past when our Ukrainians were attacking these Russian ships, there was almost no response, and these marine drones were almost never intercepted by Russians. Just think about how many Russian ships have been targeted recently and in the past. And the reason why this information is so good, it is because exactly from that area, from the Black Sea, this is the place where Russians launch a lot of their missiles against Ukraine. So, pretty much make your own conclusions. But wait, there is more, because Ukrainians continuously for the last several days have been attempting to cross Dnipro river in many different places, and they were successful in some of them, causing an extreme havoc and chaos among Russian ranks. And just in the last 2 days alone there were several daytime and nighttime such raids. And yes, I do have to admit that not every single one of these raids is successful, but even the Russian military bloggers and those soldiers from the front lines, they acknowledge that yes, Ukrainians, they do cross the river, and recently it becomes even more and more successful. And one of the most recent such successful raids is when 7 boats of Ukrainians carrying 6 to 7 people each was able to cross Dnipro river and land in this Kozachi lagery. Russians were so unexpected that this would happen, they were not prepared to repel this attack. And to make things worse, just recently they relocated some of their combat-worthy forces closer to Zaporozhye region, which basically means those Russians remaining across the river were mostly either fresh conscripts or inexperienced soldiers. And as a result of this attack, Ukrainians were able to advance 800 meters deeper inside Russian lines of defenses, collect intelligence data, and just in general weaken the defenses of Russians across the river. And in addition to that, this is the most important part. Reportedly, the entire battalion number 1322 of Russians have fled from their positions, and 18 Russians suddenly vanished and disappeared into nothingness. In addition to that, Ukrainians were also able to take some prisoners of war, which basically means in case those Russians return to Russia, or especially those Russians who abandon their positions, in case they're caught by the Russian authorities, guess what will happen to them? They will be sent straight to jail. Or maybe and then after the jail they will be recruited by another part of the Russian military and sent back to Ukraine, but now with much less favorable conditions. But so yes, as far as you can see, Ukrainian offensive definitely is going slower than many people anticipated, but the main thing is that it is going, and it is not stopping. Ukrainians probing Russian defenses, eventually they will find it, keep pushing there and breach those Russians, trying to protect Ukrainian land. And honestly, I have potentially a very good topic for my tomorrow's video. I don't want you to miss it, it's going to be a great video, so just please consider subscribing to my channel, it only takes one click. If you want to access these episodes hours before they're uploaded on YouTube, please consider joining my Patreon. You can also unlock channel perks by becoming my channel member, or simply use a PayPal link. Everything can be found to the right and down below. Thank you so much for attention, товарищи. Please follow me on Instagram. Beware there are scammers in the comments, and see you tomorrow.